battle for the states. The election bugle has been sounded in Gujarat, a state election that could well decide the emerging prime ministerial stakes in the country. That's right, tonight, the pre-poll survey results of one of the most eagerly awaited elections in the country. The CNN-IB and the week survey done for us by CSDS, the country's premier social research organization. And today we look for the big questions and the answers that we are looking for. Is Narendra Modi poised for a hat-trick of wins in Gujarat? Or can the opposition Congress and the rebel Keshubhai Patel pull off an upset win? Is the Modi model of development really working on the ground, or is it a media manufactured myth? Are Muslims in Gujarat ready to look beyond 2002, or do the ghosts of the riots continue to haunt the Chief Minister? Is Modi's image amongst the voters that of someone who has brought glory to Gujarat, or is it of a dictator? All the answers to those big questions in a moment on the battle for the states. But first, the other headlines. 16 people killed as superstorm Sandy batters the US East Coast. Major flooding, fires and power blackouts in 13 states. Obama and Romney suspend their campaigns.
She's worth far more than the 50 crores, the imaginary 50 crores he's talking about. She's priceless to me. But I added, you have to be able to love someone to understand that.
My wife is priceless. Shashi Tharoor hits back at Narendra Modi for his barb about Sunanda Pushkar being a 50 crore girlfriend of the Congress MP. After the Income Tax Department begins inquiry into alleged shell companies investing in BJP President Nitin Gadkari's firm, CNN-IBN finds a number of companies have suddenly changed their addresses overnight. Is this part of a giant cover-up? No change in your EMIs after the RBI leaves key rates unchanged, but it does inject more liquidity into the system. The Sensex closes in the red. And a trial court hands a life term to a chartered accountant who in 2009 threatened to hijack a Goa-Delhi Indigo flight. The court says he endangered the lives of passengers. But our big focus tonight, the CNN-IB and the week survey done by CSDS on the final electoral battle of 2012. And it's a battle that is enormously significant. If Narendra Modi wins Gujarat, he will have scored a hat-trick of wins and his dominance over the state will be complete. If he wins big, it will reinforce his credentials to be a potential Prime Minister candidate of the BJP and the NDA in the next elections. A defeat for Modi would be catastrophic for the BJP and for the Chief Minister and would virtually put a halt to the Modi juggernaut. For the Congress, losing Gujarat will mean 2 decades without power in a state that has now become a BJP bastion. Okay, we'll look at all those big questions. Let's first talk to our special panelists and introduce them. Dr. Suhas Palshikar is joining us, professor at Pune University. He has helped supervise the poll conducted by CSDS. Manini Chatterjee, senior journalist and national affairs editor of The Telegraph. Also joining us, Swapan Dasgupta, senior journalist and columnist. Sachidanand Murthy is the resident editor of the Malayalam Manorama. It's the group that brings out the week news magazine, which we are very proud to be our partner of in this survey. Also joining us from Ahmedabad is Amibai Yagnik. She's the Congress spokesperson. Also joining us, Akar Patel. He was editor of the Gujarati daily Divya Bhaskar. He's now an independent journalist and he tracks Gujarat closely. I appreciate all of you joining us. We'll be joined by more politicians over the program today. The first big question we are raising in our show is governance Narendra Modi's trump card this time? That's what we asked in this poll. How do the people of Gujarat rate Modi's government on governance? 67 people felt that the condition of roads in Gujarat has improved. 63% said supply of electricity in Gujarat has improved. 58% gave him a thumbs up on general development of the state. 31% said law and order in Gujarat had improved. 44% significantly felt Hindu-Muslim relations in Gujarat have improved. That's 1 in every 2 almost. Where is Modi weak? 35% feel that the condition of farmers has worsened and 38% said employment opportunities in Gujarat have declined. We also asked the people under which government's rule has Gujarat prospered. 43% said under the BJP government of Modi. Only 16% said growth was better under the Congress regime till 1995, and 23% said both governments had done a good job. Before we go further, just for our viewers, Professor Palshikar, how representative is the sample? I believe we've gone to as many as 60 assembly constituencies. Yes. That's 1 in every 3. But how representative is it? And is there a fear factor in a state like Gujarat where people may not be inclined to speak the truth before a social or political researcher?
As far as the representativeness of the sample is concerned, it is as representative as it could be, because we have approached more than 3,000 respondents, that is voters, across the state, and it is 240 locations in the state where we have done this study. There is, of course, always a possibility that there would be some slight margin of error, mainly because of underrepresentation of the urban areas. But we thought that given the emphasis that Modi's voters have in the urban areas, it is unlikely that that would really affect adversely the findings of this study.
So you're reasonably confident in terms of the representative nature of the sample and the fear factor?
Fear factor is something that a poll of this kind probably cannot measure. It is only a matter of speculation.
Okay, let's look at those first numbers that are coming out here. You know, interestingly, Swapan, the figures clearly show that there is a wide satisfaction rate with the government, particularly on governance and development, which Modi now says is his trump card. But there is also the suggestion that many have made that Modi is simply a beneficiary of the growth of Gujarat over decades. He's capitalized on it, latched onto it, and linked himself to Gujarat's development record.
Well, you see, I mean, both are correct. There is entrepreneurship in the DNA of Gujarat. I think the success of Narendra Modi lies in being able to harness that, package it well, and attune it to modern circumstances.
Or is it attuned to modern circumstances or to the persona of Narendra Modi that no, I have brought you development?
That is the political selling of Narendra Modi. When you're talking about development, one is the reality and one is how do you package it politically. I think you have to say that, okay, he's been very successful in equating development with Gujarat, with himself. But at the same time, if it was based completely on hype and based on nothing in particular, surely after 3 elections, it would have at least begun to show in your opinion polls, and not merely this opinion poll, many successive opinion polls.
There is no evidence in this opinion poll of any anti-incumbency, of strong anti-incumbency that is emerging.
Therefore, I think there is a large measure of satisfaction with the development work which Narendra Modi has undertaken.
Point taken. Let me take that to you, Dr. Amiben Yagnik, the Congress spokesperson. You know, interestingly, more voters, more than 2 in 1 when compared to the Congress, give credit to the BJP governments for the development of Gujarat rather than giving credit to the Congress. It seems that your strategy of claiming that Modi is a direct beneficiary of the Congress years in power, that roads were good even in the 1980s, is not working. People are identifying Gujarat's growth squarely at the moment with Narendra Modi and his government.
That does not appear to be true, because the indicators or the survey that was carried out have asked very specific questions in very specific spheres.
Yes.
Like you talk about electricity and roads and other infrastructure.
Yes.
But let me tell you that now in this particular election and over the last few years, we have shown the mirror to the people, going to grassroots level, showing what actually development means. Development means that you have to take the human angle in it, and so social indicators are missing in this survey. There is nothing pertaining to farmers, malnutrition, women and protection, whatever is about the law and order. If you have seen, you don't find exact data.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
Let me speculative.
Let me correct you. Let me correct you that we have asked questions on issues like of condition of farmers, and yes, there is a serious issue that Narendra Modi has. 35% felt that it was a serious problem and actually had worsened in the last 5 years. So it's not as if we haven't looked at the negatives. Yes, malnutrition is a serious problem that the Gujarat government has to be confronted with. But Akar Patel, are there 2 narratives then to the Gujarat story? One which suggests, as our survey does, that the Modi years have seen rapid industrial growth, that there is a vibrant Gujarat. But there are also areas of darkness, malnutrition, condition of farmers. We've had farmer suicides in Gujarat for the first time, water scarcity in some parts. Are there 2 Gujarats out there?
No more than there are two Indias in any other state. I don't think that really sort of applies to Gujarat. We need to understand two things. The first is that the Congress hasn't won a majority in Gujarat since 1985. They got 32 seats in 1990.
Yes.
The second thing we need to understand is that no BJP chief minister has lost an election in Gujarat. Mr. Modi is the fifth.
Yes.
So we shouldn't be surprised that this trend has continued in the way that it has.
Yes.
It has to do with much more than development. It has to do with much more than just the riots. It is a long-term trend, and I think that this 10 to 12% difference between the Congress and the BJP, I don't see it going away anytime soon.
I'll come to the specifics. I'll come to the specific difference between the two parties as we unveil it to our viewers. The story of Gujarat, some believe, is more predictable and therefore leaves very little space for suspense. But the point that Akar made, Manini, that since 1995, the BJP has been on a steady growth trajectory in Gujarat. Keshubhai Patel won a big margin in 95. If the BJP wins again, it will be their sixth win in a row. So, or fifth win in a row. So, how much is Modi responsible for Gujarat, for the BJP's growth in Gujarat?
No, I'd agree with Akar that people tend to see the Gujarat story as a Modi story, and it isn't. Modi has been very clever in capitalizing on the inherent strengths or peculiarities of Gujarat, a very mercantile state with a very strong business community, but where unlike other states, like what Akash says is true, every state in India has two narratives, in fact more than two narratives usually, but what has happened in Gujarat is the other narrative has got much more suppressed.
Yes.
Because the industrialists are happy but the farmers are not happy, and if you see this very pertinent figure, that is it among the rich and the poor, the lower class and poor, 47% of them see the government as a government of the rich, but in the absence of a vibrant Congress party, those voices tend to get suppressed, and therefore they usually go with the winning. Or,
there is a point there. There is a point.
Unlike in Bengal, what happened for years, that was it. But what happened in Singur, that you had somebody to get those voices out. I'm sure in Gujarat there are a lot of people who are unhappy with the pace of industrialization. The farmers are unhappy. But since there is no vibrant alternative, they either keep quiet or they go along with the winning.
There is that. The survey is also showing people feel the richer you are in Gujarat, the more likely you are to tend to support Narendra Modi. Do you see a worrying trend for Narendra Modi in that, or do you believe that's natural in an aspirational society like Gujarat?
Well, I think Gujarat, the standards of living have been rising consistently. It's this one state.
But the poor don't feel left out.
Hang on, Rajdeep. It is one state which has registered a double-digit growth on a sustained basis for over a decade. Therefore, there are less numbers of poor, and I'm not denying that there is an alternative narrative which Manini talks about. Now the question is, what is the dominant narrative and what exactly epitomizes the majority of people in Gujarat? After all, democracy is about getting the consensus view. It is getting the dominant view and trying to use it and having certain sort of particular schemes to be able to address that. Now what I think what we'll have to do is we'll have to measure this against caste community breakup and see how much of those so-called people of the poor, etc., are inclined to vote for the BJP and how many are inclined to vote against the BJP.
I'll come to that in a moment, but the point, Sachidanand Murthy, would be that this is a highly urbanized state. 42% of Gujarat, as per the last census, lives in urban areas. A large number of seats, therefore, are urbanized seats. Is it easier to sell the good governance plank to an urbanized aspirational society than it would be to a rural society, like say a Bihar? It's easier for Narendra Modi to sell this good governance plank than it would be in a Bihar.
I think there's also another difference, because Nitish Kumar did sell this to a highly rural Bihar last time, the last election, good governance. So has Naveen Patnaik done. But in Gujarat, the difference between other BJP chief ministers was the 2002 riots, which both glorified and demonized Modi. And Modi in the last 10 years has destroyed the organization. There's no organization, BJP to stand up to him,
So you're saying you don't agree with that? You don't agree that Modi has destroyed the BJP?
What I would say is that Modi has rebuilt the BJP in a very different way from what it was.
By removing an entire generation of leadership.
Yes, I think that's because Naveen Patnaik has removed an entire generation of leadership in Orissa. So I think we have to really talk about that, the fact that today in the municipalities, in the district boards, you have an alternative set of leaders who are actually the backbone of the BJP.
You know, I'm going to come to an interesting comparison we have with Modi with other state governments in a moment. But, you know, Jai Narayan Vyas of the BJP and a spokesperson and a minister in the Modi government joins us. You know, the one figure that goes against Modi out of all the positives, there is no doubt remarkable work that he seems to have done on infrastructure, especially power. I think that is coming out strongly in the satisfaction level, is that Modi's development has primarily benefited the rich and the urban middle class, that the poor in general feel that Modi has sold land cheap to big business houses. Is this a problem in the long run for you, the image that you are a party which benefits the rich and that land is sold cheaply to business houses, or in a business friendly state like Gujarat, that is not an issue, unlike let's say in a Bengal, as Manini pointed out?
Well, Rajdeep, let me tell you, I was listening to the discussions very carefully.
Yes.
I think there are several illusions which are dominating the analyst's mind, because I think if they want to understand Gujarat, they'll have to understand that you are talking about a state which has 14% tribal population, which has 7% scheduled caste population, which has second largest district in the country, which is desert of Kutch, which is 1/3 of the coastline and a long coastal area which has poverty-ridden people. You know, when you talk of Gujarat, you are talking about these people. And what you are talking about, the facilities given to the urbanites. Are you trying to tell that all 18,000 villages getting pure drinking water through the pipe water supply is an urban facility? Is 24-hour electricity supply in a country where just few weeks back, 1/3 of the country plunged into the darkness, is an urban facility? Is every panchayat being connected through electronic network is an urban facility?
Dr. Yagnik respond. Dr. Yagnik respond to Jai Narayan Vyas. Clearly the Modi phenomenon.
Does he mean to say that everything happened in 10 years? Does he mean to say that everything happened in only 10 years? Gujarat was already having all these super structures, already basic structures, and there we have the Narmada Dam, the water has not reached the power, the water is being given to industrial houses, land has been given to industrial people, all around the capital and also in several parts of Gujarat.
No, the fact is Narendra Modi can claim several achievements.
Way back before several decades.
Gujarat has had
not take the credit for everything in this last 10 years.
Jai Narayan Vyas, respond to that one last point, that Modi takes credit for everything good that has happened in Gujarat in the last 10 years.
I think
he should take credit for all the bad also that has happened.
Now, if she is going to keep quiet, then I'll talk. Otherwise, I have no intention of participating in the debate.
Go ahead.
See, what she is telling, I think she needs to revise her statistics.
Yes.
Absolutely lopsided view presented through absolute poor understanding of the state's developmental parameters. What has happened in last 10 years? The dropout ratio, which was 32%, has been brought down to 2%. That has happened in last 10 years. 18,000 villages. That has happened in last 10 years.
Yes.
There was almost 40% of the Gujarat which was being fed on tanker water supply. Now no more tanker water supply except few exceptions. That has happened in last 10 years. The large number of facilities like gas pipeline and the electronic data network that has linked all the panchayats, that has happened in last 10 years.
Okay, so
10,000 crores distributed to people below poverty line, that has happened in last 10 years. Okay. What are we talking about?
Okay, let's, we've got plenty more questions to ask. We can compare whether the growth of Gujarat has taken place over the last 50 years or the last 10 years. But when we asked our respondents to rate the performance of the state and central governments, because that's often been made a point, let's look at the satisfaction levels. 57% in that poll had said from Gujarat they were satisfied with the UPA government. But 71%, and 70 is seen as benchmark, was seen to be happy with the BJP government. Strong pro-incumbency for Modi. 30% said that the UPA government was given a thumbs down. Only 19% say they were dissatisfied with the BJP government, and this is after Modi being in power for 10 years. How does Narendra Modi's performance as Chief Minister compare to Manmohan Singh as Prime Minister? 73% of those surveyed in Gujarat said they were satisfied with Modi as Prime Minister, compared with 55% who were satisfied with Manmohan Singh as Prime Minister. Only 18% of those surveyed said they were unhappy with Modi as Chief Minister, 28% were unhappy with Manmohan Singh. We also compared Modi's government to other governments which have been re-elected. A healthy 71% of those said they were satisfied with Modi's government in 2012. Compare that with other state governments that have come back to power. 77% had said that of Nitish Kumar in 2010. Scoring more than Modi was Naveen Patnaik, 74% in 2009 in Orissa, Shivraj Singh Chauhan's MP government in 2008, which was supported by 77%, and Raman Singh's government in Chhattisgarh, which also had the backing of 75%. These are the governments with more than 70% satisfaction rating. The question, Swapan, is that what Modi is showing is clear pro-incumbency, but he is not alone. There are all chief ministers, and interestingly, all of them are opposition chief ministers.
You mean non-Congress?
Non-Congress chief ministers.
Yeah. And I think that's quite good. That's quite encouraging.
But he's not the only one.
No. I don't think, anybody would say that Modi's distinctiveness lies that he alone has made an island of progress in Gujarat. I mean, I'm very glad that the rest of it. I think where there is a distinction between Modi's Gujarat and the rest, and if you look at them, whether it's Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Orissa and Bihar, these were backward states, economically backward states, where the role of the state matters quite a lot. I think in the case of Gujarat, private entrepreneurship has also mattered as a complement, as a substantial sort of backup to state endeavors. And I think where Modi has differed is he hasn't glorified poverty. That's really, and I think that's the uniqueness of Gujarat, because in Gujarat, the state by and large, except in a certain
he's gone out there and stood and said, I stand for reform, I stand for power.
I stand for minimum government. This is a very few chief ministers who have actually said, I stand for minimum government.
Professor Palchikar, a 70% approval rating after being 10 years in power. Would you say that is clear indication of a pro-incumbency factor? When you're measuring it, would you say 70% clearly shows that in Gujarat today there is a pro-incumbency factor?
Sure, but as we have been discussing, there are 3 or 4 other chief ministers who have got better ratings, and to my mind it means that Modi and other chief ministers, there is a distinguishing point, which is that Modi produces a negative sentiment also. Whereas these chief ministers, while they come from backward states, as Swapan rightly pointed out, they don't produce that negative sentiment which counterbalances their positive
image. But still I'm 70%. The approval rating is enormously high.
Absolutely. But you look at someone like Shivraj Chauhan in 2008 when he faced the election, his approval rating was 81%.
Okay. Akar Patel, would you say, as some are arguing, that Modi has linked himself to Gujarat's growth story, or is it as Jainarayan Vyas says that over these 10 years, Modi has genuinely worked to make that growth story possible? There are genuine achievements of this Modi government that even his worst critics cannot deny.
I think there's no doubt that the voter in Gujarat thinks that Mr. Modi has done well, and that's why they vote for him. Just going back to what was said a little earlier.
Yes.
If you look at the poorest, the scheduled castes, you've got 13 seats reserved out of 182.
Yes.
11 of those were won by the BJP in 2007.
Yes.
That tells us something about what the Dalit voter feels about the BJP as well. So I think we can't just dismiss what he's done as a myth or a fantasy. It doesn't hold with the voter.
That's an important point, because in the last elections, he dominated tribal Gujarat. The BJP did very well in tribal parts. The BJP has done well, as Akar points out, in scheduled caste constituencies. Clearly, Modi's appeal is extending across classes. And to that extent, while you may argue the poor-rich divide does exist to some extent, even the poor see Modi as their alternative rather than anyone else.
Because there is no alternative.
You're saying because there is no alternative.
I'm saying that the failure of the Congress for the last 15 years to do anything apart from the 2002 riots issue, and I'd say even civil society groups, they've done great work, many of them, but they're focused too much on the communal Hindu-Muslim issues and not enough on other aspects of rule. Because if you see those figures what Mr. Vyas is saying, every government, you get any chief minister or any minister, they'll give you statistics which are, you know, which sound very good. And even if you get something, there's always dissatisfaction. That's democracy. Everyone gets dissatisfied. But in Modi's case, because there is not any other alternative happening, so people say, why will we waste our vote? You might as well. So there's a lot of that in between who are not implacably opposed to BJP, go along with the trend. That's what I'm saying.
But the point is that many believe this is a BSP election in Gujarat. Bijli, Sadak, Pani. Modi's provided Bijli. The Sadaks in Gujarat are better than most parts of India. On Pani, there is a question mark maybe in some parts of Saurashtra which are drought affected. But Dr. Yagnik, the point is that he seemed to be trying to do something. The people feel that they actually have a better life. We asked this question. Many people believe that life today is better for them than it was 10 years ago. And you can say that about very few states.
Rajdeep, there cannot be this kind of comparison between states. But if you look at Gujarat 10 years back, don't you think that Ahmedabad was Manchester of India? We had 70 mills. Of course, the mills closed. But you can give that credit that already there was an industrialization which was very well recognized all over the world. And so there Gujarat has been a very progressive state right from the time of independence, post-independence. And so there was a very strong goodwill which we have in Gujarat. And so as private entrepreneurship also got the benefit of this goodwill and the globalized Gujarati community all over the world. And so you cannot just attribute that only 10 years have done all this progress and only due to Mr. Modi. It's good that he has marketed himself very well. He's built some kind of structure on this already existing infrastructure of developed Gujarat and he's taking the credit for it. But he has also to take the credit of all the bad that has happened in the last 10 years. Gujarat has lost opportunity of development on a certain factor that the world has recognized that this is not a place to invest. And so now there's kind of a re-engagement and he's seeking endorsement from other foreign countries. So this is not the exact position which is being marketed or being shown by Mr. Modi. So in the last 10 years, what has happened happened on already developed Gujarat.
Already, Jai Narayan Vyas, this is going to be the big this is the debate at the moment in Gujarat, it appears in this election. Congress saying, we developed Gujarat up to 1995. Narendra Modi and his supporters saying, we've taken it to an entirely new level in the last 10 years. That seems to be the core of the debate. But the question is, one of the interesting questions is, a number of people felt corruption has grown in the last 5 years. They didn't identify the chief minister with it, but they said petty corruption has grown in Gujarat in the last 10 years as well. Is there any concern that you have that somewhere this development story, this narrative also has weaknesses, as holes, which you are simply not willing to look at because it doesn't suit your larger marketing strategy of Gujarat as this #1 state?
No, Rajdeep, nobody in his right sense who is talking about good governance would endorse corruption. And I think we shall never do that.
No,
and that has been always
for the last 9 years.
That is, I think, Rajdeep, I should be given a fair opportunity.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Because I
please
am
go ahead,
interrupted
sir.
in between.
Please go ahead. No, let's continue. Let's continue. Let's go ahead.
Now,
do you concede there are areas of darkness in Gujarat? Do you concede there are areas of darkness in vibrant Gujarat?
See, anywhere, the word growth per se has inequalities built in it.
Yes.
You can't think of a growth where there are no inequalities, because if there are no inequalities, there is no comparison and there is no growth.
Yes.
So if you define growth, there are bound to be inequalities, and we have our own inequalities which we should be addressing ourselves for the years to come. I thank Dr. Yagnik for at least one frank admission that Ahmedabad ceased to be the Manchester of India during Congress regime. The textile mills got closed down. Thanks to the development of the textile industry in Surat, which today produces 28 kilometers of cloth every minute, Rajdeep. 28 kilometers of cloth every minute.
Nobody doubts.
And around.
Nobody doubts
that. Let me tell you, Rajdeep. Ahmedabad was already developed. 10%. 10% of the denim produced anywhere, 10% of the denim produced in the world.
Okay, let me just, sir,
in the world,
agreed, sir.
From Gujarat.
Sir, agreed. Gujarat is at the front line of private entrepreneurship. The question, Akar, let me end this segment there by asking you this. The battle seems to be the Congress saying this development has traditionally been there in Gujarat. The BJP is saying they've taken it to another level. Where do you stand on this? Do you believe that the truth lies somewhere in between? Or is it clear that in the last 20 years, Gujarat has been taken to another level?
It does lie somewhere in between. The fact is that I am from Surat, and I think it's completely bogus to say that Surat's development in textiles came from the BJP. That's nonsense. We had a factory there 25 years ago, and we were not the only ones. There were thousands even then. I think the problem is different. In Gujarat, the Congress doesn't want to put up a fight, or at least so it seems. That there is no strategy to look at how to win the votes back that it has lost to the BJP in the last 2 decades. And I don't see it coming out of it.
So you think it is the Tina factor. At the end of the day, the fact is private entrepreneurship has taken Gujarat to another level. Modi has supported that and thereby harnessed Gujarat's growth to his own political development, and the Congress has no alternative to offer.
I would be cautious to look at development as the reason why most people vote. That doesn't really apply in the rest of India. We are caste-based voters everywhere in India, including in Gujarat. I think for us to suddenly change our behavior over the last 10 years because of Mr. Modi, I think we need to be a little cautious when we use these words, development and so on. I don't think these are necessarily the ones that...
Okay, let me then take that point forward in a moment from now. Let me take a break, because when we come back, we will then look at how is all this translating into support for Modi. Where does Modi stand and where does the Congress? Is Modi really heading for that kind of landslide victory that many believe he needs to become a potential prime ministerial candidate? The big numbers when we return. Welcome back to the CNN-IBN The Week survey done for us by CSDS, the pre-poll survey on the battleground state of Gujarat. Narendra Modi's future on the line. We asked the big question to our respondents. Who do they think should be chosen as Gujarat's Chief Minister? Take a look at who stands where. At 5th position is Gujarat Congress President Arjun Modwadia, 3%. At 4th position is Shakti Singh Goyal of the Congress, who's been leading the party's charge in the legislature. At 3rd position was former Chief Minister Shankar Singh Waghela, Modi's prime adversary, with 6%. Number 2 is the old war horse Keshubai Patel, who's left the BJP now to form his own party. But at the very top and clearly dominant, Narendra Modi, 49% of the voters, more than almost half said they want him. The rest were really low ratings. Compare these popularity ratings over the last decade. Between 2002 and now, Modi's popularity has actually gone up from 37% in 2002, who saw him as their first candidate, to now 49%. So his popularity is only going up. Waghela's has gone down from 16 to 6%, and Keshubai's has remained in the same range of around 6 to 8%. So clearly Modi is of the up. When asked, should the BJP come back to power in Gujarat, 52%, more than half, said they want Modi government to win again. 4% more than 2007. In our pre-poll survey then, 48% had said it. Now it's up to 52. It brings us to the key finding of the poll. Estimated vote share, and take a look at this. It is a remarkable figure. 50%. And in a 2-horse race, that's a landslide. 50% say they will vote for BJP. It's up 1% from the 2007 actual vote share. The Congress has got 36%. That's down 2% from where they were in 2007. The gap is now 14%. Keshubai Patel's Gujarat Parivartan Party is making a debut with just 3%, and much of that is coming out of the Congress vote. Others have a vote share, we believe, of around 11%. That's down 2%. Let's just compare how the vote share has changed since 1998. BJP's vote share steadily above 40%, 45% in 98, going up to 50 in 2002. 2007 was 49. Now we believe it's back to where it was in 2002. That's 50%. It raises the big question. What explains Narendra Modi's sway and dominance over Gujarat? Professor Palshikar, would it be fair to say that this is a landslide if these numbers stand? 14% margin.
Yes, most certainly. If it is 50% and there is a difference between a bipolar contest of 14%, then definitely BJP is slated or scheduled for a landslide victory.
When I say landslide, can I safely say, because numbers are important, they got 117 last time out of 182. Would it be fair to say that 120 or a two-thirds majority appears almost certain, barring any last-minute miracle?
Don't try to draw any numbers from me. But I would say yes, definitely, with 49% last time they crossed 117. So they should, by any chance, cross 120.
They should cross 120. So therefore a two-thirds majority clearly appears more and more likely.
Only a word of caution, however, and that is, we have done this survey more than 3 weeks before the actual date of voting, even when the people who were our respondents didn't know who the candidates were going to be. All this drama of rebellion and the following campaigning has yet to unfold in Gujarat. Okay, so all these caveats need to be taken into consideration.
Fair enough, statutory warning. So 14% could come down to a 10%, but it's still double digit, many would believe. Swapan Dasgupta, the reason I was pressing Professor Palshikar on the figure is there is a feeling in the BJP supporters in particular that Modi doesn't just need to win, he needs to win big. He needs to get more than 120, possibly more than 130 for him to really stake his claim to be the next prime ministerial contender of the NDA BJP. How true is that?
Well, some would say he needs to win all the seats to become a prime ministerial candidate.
Does he need to win big?
I think what is very important is two things. One is he needs to win conclusively, and the perception of having won conclusively needs to filter down. Now, therefore, what that means in actual terms is very, very difficult to say. Tomorrow he might win. I mean, if these figures are replicated on voting day and he gets 120, 125, someone might go up and say, well, this was 4 seats. And I'm sure, the civil groups, society groups which constitute the main opposition in Gujarat will be there on television saying that, this is actually a rejection of Narendra Modi. So, the point is, I'm deliberately being a bit sarcastic, because I think what is necessary is to point out that really ultimately everybody will define their own standards as what constitutes.
Can I just get, since Chopin is sort of saying that civil society people will be coming and saying that it's not, I'd like to ask Chopin that will he agree that if he does not get the same numbers, if he gets less than what he got in 2007, which is less than 117, will he concede that Modi has done not quite so well?
She's asking a question.
QED, I think this is precisely the point I was saying, that if you're talking about 1 seat more,
not 1 seat more,
less, it is the perception of what it's really.
What is the perception? What is it a two-thirds majority?
The perception of having won a conclusive victory. And it's very difficult at this point to actually attach a number and say this is what it actually means. But I'm saying it's really boils down to how the world is going to view that.
Saying conclusive victory. In your view, anything less than 117 will not work?
So Swapan is correct, because in 2009 Lok Sabha elections, the analysts said that Modi, who won 117 seats, has dropped some assembly segments in the Lok Sabha elections when the UPA won power at the centre. So they said the Modi magic has waned.
So it's no longer about winning, he has to win.
He has to win very convincingly.
He has to win very convincingly.
Win more than what he did last time. I mean, that's all I'm saying.
Point taken, but Akar, how much of this is the Tina factor? You attributed it partly. Where is the alternative? Is it the Tina factor that is pushing Modi to 50% and possibly another two-thirds victory? Is it the demographics of Gujarat? The fact that there are 58 seats the BJP has not lost in the last 5 elections? The fact that the urban middle class strongly stands behind Modi? Women and youth are coming in big numbers behind Modi. What is that one factor you believe that is responsible for what we believe is likely to be another landslide victory?
May I talk about the Congress for a moment? The thing is that the most powerful leader of the Congress in Gujarat works out of Delhi. The man who decides every seat, who has to stamp his approval on every seat, Ahmed Patel, has been in Delhi. He is the one who will decide ultimately every seat. That man doesn't owe his job to anything happening in Gujarat. He works in Mrs. Gandhi's office. There is no accountability, which is the reason why smaller leaders come and go in the state. They keep losing. he stays there. He is still the man who is going to decide. All the 185 seats, 182 seats,
Yes.
the candidates of the Congress will be decided by Ahmed Patel.
Now, let me take that to Dr. Yagnik. Dr. Yagnik, Akar Patel is saying Ahmed Patel decides the Congress's future. He sits in Delhi. He has no stakes in Gujarat, unlike a Narendra Modi and the BJP. Where is the Congress leadership to take on a Narendra Modi? Bharat Singh Solanki is made a Minister of Drinking Water and Sanitation at the centre. 5 years ago, I was told he was the man who would take on a Narendra Modi. You don't have any local state leadership who can actually measure up to Modi.
I think this is just some very strange imagination that there is no leadership. We have several leaders here in Gujarat, and that is the reason why Mr. Modi is thinking that the ground is slipping now from his feet under.
But would you concede Ahmed Patel calls the shots? Would you concede that Ahmed Patel sitting in Delhi decides the future of the Congress in Gujarat?
The election is going to be very different because the people have realized, we have touched base with the people at grassroots level to show them what exactly non-performance of these last 10 years by this present ruling party is. And so talking about that everything gets decided at a certain place or a certain center is not totally right, because we have democratic processes within the party in place.
Right.
It is not like that one man is the only leader, one man only decides the whole BJP's agenda, whether here or at the central level. So that is not what
You
is happening
rely
in
on
the
a
Congress
Shankar
party.
Singh
I think
Waghela,
you are
a
very,
former
very
RSS
mistaken in making
Swayamsevak,
such a
to take
statement.
on Narendra Modi. You rely on a Shankar Singh Waghela to take on a Narendra Modi. You don't even give him full power to take on a Modi. I mean, how are you going to defeat someone like Narendra Modi? Your calm alliance of the 1980s is in tatters.
Modi, what do you attribute to Mr. Modi? Suppression of all kinds of processes, democratic processes in the state, no rule of law. What kind of stature are you attributing to Mr. Modi?
Okay.
You think that there are no other leaders who can be a proper leader in the Congress party? There are multiple leaders and all of them are working very hard and confidently. And we are very confident to give a very tough time this time. So these results which you are showing are absolutely speculative.
Are absolutely speculative. Jaina and Vyas, you can smile at those results, but the fact is this, if this win comes about, sir, just a minute, is this a win for Narendra Modi or the BJP? Honest answer. Is today Modi larger than the BJP in Gujarat? Has he destroyed the entire BJP organization or created a new organization of the BJP around his persona? Whose win will it be? Narendra Modi's or the BJP's?
I shall answer you in no uncertain terms, Rajdeep, but let me tell you.
Yes.
I would, for a change, support what statement was being made by Akar.
Yes.
Congress in Gujarat is like a marriage party without the bridegroom. They don't have a leadership. And what Dr. Yagnik was talking about is somebody scoring 40 marks.
Yes.
When you say 40 marks are required to be passed, then person says, I have scored 40 marks with a total of all the subjects. So she wants a collective leadership which will lead Congress to a success. I think that's a
Can you answer my question? Whose win will it be? Will it be the win of the BJP or of Narendra Modi? Is this now a one-man party?
Understand,
that is a crucial question.
Understand, Rajdeep.
Yes.
Understand, Rajdeep.
Yes.
That the battles are planned in the minds of the generals and executed on the battlefront. General is also important. And the soldiers are also important.
But are the soldiers given any prominence at all? Are the soldiers given even limited prominence in Gujarat?
No.
No, not at all. Not at all. You can't do that. You know, in fact, Mr. Modi has distinguished himself as a leader or a general who has marshaled his soldiers and his other office bearers so nicely that the party today is in total alignment with the government and the government works in total understanding with the party.
Okay, Jai Narayan Vyas, I'll take your word for it. I have given various stories about how cabinet meetings are run in Gujarat, but I will leave those stories for another day. It is true that it is a single window clearance state. Yes.
One small point I want to make. You see, I think you're underestimating the Congress. Remember that in 2009,
yes,
the Congress got 12 out of the 26 Lok Sabha seats in Gujarat. So the point in which you have to look at it is that it's not that there is no opposition in Gujarat. There is a groundswell of, there is some substantive core.
You think the calm alliance of the past is still there?
No, what I'm trying to say is that what makes it so different in an assembly election
That's
the question. I think, Mr.
As we've seen in Uttar Pradesh, where in assembly election the Samajwadi and BSP do much better.
If you really want to look at it, that the Congress, you can't really say that the Congress is a non-starter. It hasn't done anything in the. Look at the number of assembly segments it won in 2009.
Let me take that to you, Professor Palshikar. Is there, like in Uttar Pradesh, a clear distinction between Lok Sabha elections, where both in 2004 and 2009 the Congress did pretty respectably, 10 seats then and 12 seats in 2009. But in assembly elections they get completely demolished. Is there a distinction which suggests that the Congress's problem is the lack of a local leadership, which is a problem that the Congress faces in several states of the country today?
That yes, but there is also one more point to it. In 2009, the Congress actually was leading in 75 assembly segments, against 106 led by the BJP.
Right.
So the BJP was obviously down by something like 10 seats.
But here again now we are seeing a 14% gap. So is there a distinction that the voter sees between assembly elections and Lok Sabha elections?
No, I don't think.
That's the Modi factor. That's the Modi factor.
I would say that it is something different. It's not just distinction between the local and the national, or the state level and the national.
Yes.
I think Modi must have learnt a lesson in the last 2 years' time.
You think he's learnt a lesson?
Built an image for himself and his government. And I think we are not fully analyzing why Modi is winning. He has combined both his Hindutva image plus the development image plus the regional image, Swarnim Gujarat.
Yes.
This Swarnim Gujarat business has actually created a kind of acceptability to his campaign.
Let me just for a moment take that to Akar. Akar, not just Swarnim Gujarat, but this time there's some belief, and I saw that on the ground when I was in Gujarat, the belief that many women and youth I asked said, "Hame Modi ko Prime Minister banana hai." Do you see that undercurrent of any Gujarat Asmita coming in, particularly in this election?
Two things. I think Mr. Modi is one of the most charismatic speakers in politics anywhere. I think if you understand the connect he has with his audience, especially when he speaks in Gujarati, it's outstanding. He's a first-rate speaker. Second, he is posited the fight that he is fighting as Gujarat versus the rest of India, which is full of nasty secularists who are trying to run down the success story of Gujarat. That has been bought to a very large extent.
Yes.
So Gujaratis feel they are victims of some sort of secular propaganda that's trying to run down what is their hard-earned success on the basis of a single event 10 or 11 years ago.
Yes.
I think these two things he has been able to use in his favor really well.
Okay, so Mani, you wanted to make a point about this Modi phenomenon, because it is a phenomenon if he wins 3 elections in a row by successive large margins, contrasting with what happens in Lok Sabha elections in Gujarat. So it's not as if the Congress has disintegrated or the Kshatriya Harijan Adivasi Muslim Kham factor has gone away, but in state elections Modi seems to cut through that.
But that's not just, as you earlier said, it's not just Modi, there's several other people. Naveen Patnaik has had 3 terms. Tarun Gogoi has had 3 terms. Sheila Dikshit has had 3 terms. But that is where the Modi, whether you're a detractor of his or you're a supporter of his, that's what Modi is different, because he has a certain persona, there's a certain megalomania, and which seems to be going down with large sections of the people. And where I agree with Akar, what he's done very successfully is fusing his own image. He's puts himself as he epitomizes or he symbolizes or embodies the Gujarati. So any attack on him is seen as an attack on Gujarat. He's done he's done that very successfully. But when it comes to national elections, Modi is not the factor. I mean, at least he hasn't been so far. Then you're voting for Manmohan Singh, or you're voting for Congress versus BJP. There are other factors coming in. If you had a state level leader from the Congress, then in fact, I feel if Modi doesn't do as well as your projection says, it will not be because of the Congress, but because Modi will be his own. Because
I'm going to come to that. Because we have questions on Modi's image. But quick last point before we take a break.
My point is basically we are discussing about the Congress. Congress has good support. That's what everybody. But look at when we look at the figures of Himachal yesterday. Look at Manmohan Singh's approval rating in Gujarat. It is 55%. He's the only congressman who is happy with your results, Professor. That's what. And secondly, I'm saying that corruption is not an issue in Gujarat. It is only 9%. 10% compared to what it was in Himachal.
Sure.
So Gujarat is thinking differently, at least for the assembly elections.
Well, fair enough. Many, as I said, in Gujarat is the ultimate pragmatic state. It is looking at the benefits that it can acquire. Who is that chief minister or CEO of Gujarat who can give it the maximum benefits? For now, it appears that the people of Gujarat appear to still be well behind Narendra Modi. Let's take a break at this point. When we return, we look at that other contentious issue, 2002. Is it a forgotten chapter? How are the Muslims of Gujarat looking at Narendra Modi and his persona? There are fascinating figures when you look at that. That's coming up in a moment from now. The big headlines, Narendra Modi seems to be heading for a landslide win in Gujarat, with the BJP likely to get 50% vote share. The Congress may drop to 36%. The results of the CNN-IB and the week pre-poll survey done by CSDS. There's a big thumbs up to Modi's model of development. 58% of Gujaratis say overall development in the state has improved in the last 5 years. Modi's personal popularity too at an all-time high at 49%, up by 4% since 2007. His rivals Keshubhai Patel and Shankar Singh Waghela are trailing. Let me raise the next big question, and how can you debate Narendra Modi, some would say, without doing it? Certainly not on national television. Does the ghost of 2002 no longer haunt Modi? We asked Muslim respondents if their opinion on Modi had changed. 26% said they always liked him. Now this is up from 14% when the same question was put up in 2009. While the number of those who never liked him is down to 23% from 44% in 2009. So clearly there is a small difference that is emerging among Muslims. We also asked the question, should 2002 Godhra and Gujarat be forgotten? Hindus who agreed said 67% said forget it. Muslims who agreed significantly, 65% said let's forget about 2002 Godhra and the Gujarat riots. We also asked if Modi should apologize for the 2002 riots. 44% of Hindu respondents and 55% of Muslim respondents agreed that Modi should apologize for 2002. So those were the big numbers that are coming in, because they raise the big question whether 2002 is now a forgotten chapter. Professor Palchikar, given the size of this survey, would it be fair to say through these figures that Muslims in particular or in general across Gujarat do not see 2002 anymore as an issue on which you should vote for or against Narendra Modi?
I think 10 years down the line, the Muslim community, particularly in Gujarat, doesn't have much option but to say that let us forget and move ahead. So I wouldn't, I mean, even in spite of these figures, I wouldn't say that it is that the Muslim community is absolving Modi of anything. In fact, one of the other questions that we should report is also that 50% Muslims even today think that if Modi wanted, he could have stopped the riots.
50% thought that he could have stopped the riots.
And 45% Hindus also think that if Modi wanted, he could have stopped the riots.
I think we should put those numbers up because they give a context. You know, Swapan, the cynical view will be communal polarization is complete now in Gujarat. Over the last 10 years, Modi doesn't need to raise the issue of riots because he has already achieved a Hindu vote bank for himself. So over that structure of what happened in 2002, he has built a superstructure of governance and development. How do you respond to that? You know that this issue has been raised time and again.
You know, I think what is firstly, it's important to note that the issue of 2002 is raised more outside Gujarat than is raised within Gujarat. Within Gujarat, even the Congress shies away from raising this issue. That's the first point. Secondly, the survey results show that I think Gujaratis, irrespective of whether they are Hindus or Muslims, are by and large reacting in broadly a same way. So that to my mind is very important. So when you talk about communal polarization, at least in terms of responses to 2002 riots, 10 years down the line, is not there. I think they are reacting uniformly as Gujaratis, and I think that's very, very important to put. Now, whether that what the political implications for Narendra Modi is, whether he should apologize, whether in the process of apologizing, whether the question of Muslims gets also linked to the larger question of the train burning in Godhra, are questions which are difficult to answer for me. But at the moment, let's think that what you're talking about, the communal polarization in Gujarat, is certainly not borne out by your figures.
Akash, do you agree with that? That these figures would suggest most Gujaratis want to move beyond 2002, whether Hindus or Muslims, that this talk of communal polarization on the ground and its impact on elections in Gujarat is grossly exaggerated, particularly outside Gujarat?
Totally polarized state. Muslims have been shown their place by the BJP, not given a single ticket in the last 4 polls. 2002 to Assembly, 2004 Lok Sabha, 2007 Assembly, 2009 Lok Sabha. They can't get justice, the Supreme Court has to send a team from there. I think there is another point to be made here, which is that out of 182 seats, there were 5 Muslims in the current Assembly.
Yes.
In 1985, the Congress won 55% of the vote. It had about 150 seats. There were only 5 Muslims. To see more than 5 Muslims in the Gujarat Assembly, we have to go back to 1962 and Nehru's time. It's not just the BJP that does this to the Muslims, it's also the Congress. They have used them, abused them as a vote bank, have denied them justice, have not been able to secure them justice, whether they have been in power, whether they have been in the opposition. But the fact is, we cannot put the riots behind us when there is an active effort by the Gujarat state to keep them going. Everybody wants to put the riots behind them.
Yes.
The fact is, when a minister gets convicted,
yes,
and the government does not accept her guilt, it stays alive. Secondly, and this is very important,
yes,
Mayaben Kodnani said she was not at Naroda Bhatia.
yes.
How did we know she was at Naroda Bhatia? A very brave young IPS officer took the initiative, found the cell phone records of the whole city, submitted them to the agency, the independent agency. He's being prosecuted by the government. Now a government in Gujarat that thinks that Rahul Sharma is guilty and Mayaben Kodnani is innocent,
yes,
there's something seriously wrong in that state.
Yeah, in fact, our survey says that they believe that the likes of Mayaben Kodnani, a large number also said, should face punishment if they were involved in the riots. But Jai Narayan Vyas, taking from the point that Akar Patel made, that Muslims have been shown their place, that they have no political space left in Gujarat, so they have no choice today but to perhaps either go along with Modi or stay silent.
See, I'll rather go with Sapan, who has said that this issue is more discussed outside Gujarat than within Gujarat. Even Congress doesn't discuss this issue in Gujarat. And I would fully endorse the view that Congress has used Muslims as the vote bank, used them and thrown them away. Ideal example, Rajdeep, I can quote from my own constituency,
yes,
which has 22.5% voters who are Muslims. Congress, despite the Muslims continuously asking for the ticket, they have never thought of
because they won't win. Because they won't win.
From Sidhpur.
Because a Muslim candidate today in Gujarat won't win.
It's not. So you want, see, this is precisely you are answering the question. That there are some certain constituencies where BJP, even if you fill Muslim candidate,
yes,
he will not win. So any political party,
yes,
whenever you are deciding candidates, you decide the candidates on winnability as one of the factors.
Point taken.
So perhaps that dominated.
Yes.
Like Congress,
yes,
BJP is thinking also their winnability could be one of the criteria.
Okay, let me just take that to Ms. Yagni, because you've raised an important point about the Congress and the way it has treated Muslims. We've often focused on Modi and Muslims, but Dr. Yagnik, the Congress this time doesn't seem to even want to raise the issue of 2002. The Maut Ka Saudagar statement of Sonia Gandhi in 2007 almost had a backlash. Modi was able to show himself as a victim, make it Gujarat versus the centre. This time, have you decided not to use 2002 because you believe every time it's raised, it's advantage Modi?
No, it is not so. 2002 has been the entry point of Mr. Modi, and you cannot run away from the fact that there has been a disruption of harmony.
But you raised it in no rallies. I haven't heard the Congress in this campaign raise it once.
Because there have been continuous convictions and there are 15 IPS officers languishing in jail awaiting their trial. So you can neither forget nor forgive about these 2002 riots. It's okay that you don't bring that issue, but because the Vikas issue has been brought now for the last several years and being projected as a Vikas Purush in front of the world and in front of the nation as if Gujarat is the only state that is progressing under this 10 years rule, this issue has taken a little backseat, but it is very much alive in the courts, it is very much going on, and when ministers are convicted and when the perpetrators of crime are brought to book and the victims are awaiting justice, you cannot say that 2002 is forgotten.
It is not forgotten, but Manini, does the national security
Congress Minister Radip, Congress Minister Mohammad Surti is languishing in the jail.
Sir, but there are 15 IPS officers. There is no other state where so many IPS officers are languishing in jail. Let's be honest also.
The law is taking its own course.
Okay.
See, the government, this on the contrary proves this, the theory other way around.
Okay.
That whatever is the process of law, whatever the investigations the government was required to do or the Gujarat police was required to do, has been done in a manner that was required to be done.
Okay, Mr. Vyas, you made your point. You made your point, sir. Let me just bring in. Let me just bring in Manini. Manini, does the national secular media, so-called secular media, focus too much on the riots when on ground zero it seems to matter less and less, particularly at election time?
I want to, your own figures, changing opinion on riots, majority of Hindus and Muslims want to forget the 202 riots, although the number was higher in 2002. In 2002, when you asked them the same question, the 77% of the Muslims said, let's forget it. And now it's down to 65. What I'm saying, what it reflects, in 77, it was a very raw wound. Anyone, as a journalist, when I went in 2007 and I went to the Muslim majority areas, and I initially was taken back because most of them told me that nahi, sab kuch theek hai, Modi ko vote karenge, because there's a
fear factor possibly,
and it's possible that they have decided to make peace with the enemy because they don't have an option, and therefore what Shopan says is right. In Gujarat, the Gujarati Muslim is probably less fearful of Modi because he knows he has to live with him and he's making peace with him than the minority community of secular people outside Gujarat. That does not mean that we are misreading what has happened in Gujarat.
Which is why the question, Sachi, is, does Modi, and Swapan can also join in, need to in some way apologize for 2002 or appear more contrite to reach out to Muslims outside Gujarat, to reach out to a secular, to reach out to a wider community beyond Gujarat? Yes, the Modi phenomenon works in Gujarat, but outside Gujarat, does he need to do that to reach out to Muslims?
Modi wants to become the Prime Minister of this country, wants to lead the NDA. I mean, he has to reach out to, because it's going to be a coalition. He cannot lead the BJP as a party to, a majority. So he has to reach out to various sections, and he has to reach out to the large liberal, secular population of this country.
Swapan, because when I asked this question to Modi a few weeks ago, he again stayed silent. Whenever he's asked the question of apology for 2002, even any question in fact on 2002, he now prefers to stay silent. Do you think that's a wise strategy beyond Gujarat? In Gujarat, possibly, but beyond Gujarat?
You see, I think you have to take this into account, that number one, that regardless of what Modi says or does, it is unlikely that there will be any substantial vote for the BJP in any case from the Muslim community. That's a very harsh, but it's the blunt truth. What I think is far more important, as far as people like Narendra Modi is concerned, if they have national ambitions, is how do you make yourself, present yourself to the liberal section of Hindus who are worried about him being a divisive figure. I think that, to my mind, is a far more important issue. Whether that is best served by doing it through an apology, or whether it is done through focusing completely on some other issues and letting those issues dominate completely at the cost of this secular communal issue, is a matter I think we will come.
I want to ask a quick question to Mr. Vyas.
Yes.
But now, BJP appearing to head for a landslide. Will the BJP give at least one Muslim as a ticket in the elections?
Jai Narendra Vyas, you want to ask that before I take my final break? Will the BJP give at least one Muslim, a token Muslim, a seat in Gujarat, or do you believe that Muslims simply cannot win an election on a BJP ticket?
I think, Rajdeep, I will not preempt the right of the parliamentary board, which is currently debating every seat.
Who decides the seats? Come on, does Narendra Modi decide the seat, or is there a parliamentary board that decides Gujarat seats?
No, there is a system, there is a process. Even I have been involved in some of the districts where we have screened the candidates and then made the short list, and it's a very, very systematic process through which we are selecting the candidates.
Okay.
And I'm sure, I mean, I can only say at this juncture that we are not averse to any Muslim candidate being given a ticket.
Okay.
Why should we be averse to?
Okay,
we don't give ticket on the considerations of caste, creed or religion.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Okay.
Is one of the criteria.
Right-hand woman joining, who's a Muslim who's joined the BJP.
That's right. Yes, they've just got a major catch from the Congress there. Let's take a break at this point. When we come back, we look at the final contentious issue. Modi's image. Is it of a Vikas Purush, or is it of a dictator, or is it a bit of both? Back with our final segment when we return. Welcome back. Let's raise one final question on our pre-poll survey on Gujarat. Is Narendra Modi's image his biggest asset or a liability? Take a look at changing opinion of Modi over the last 10 years. We surveyed people and 43% felt his style of speaking and campaigning is inconsistent with Gujarat's culture. That's up from 29% in 2002. But importantly, 67% feel that Gujarat's honor has increased because of Modi. 67%, that's up from 47% in 2002. 34% felt he works like a dictator, which is the same number as 2007. So essentially, that's the kind of numbers that we are getting with Narendra Modi. He clearly is a figure who many would believe is polarizing. Sopan Dasgupta, we've seen two contrary images of Modi even in the last 24 hours. One, as this survey shows, Vikas Purush, people appreciate the governance and development he's doing, and then we have him going to Himachal Pradesh making a comment, some would say, which was an unacceptable comment on Shashi Tharoor's wife and a 50 crore wife or 50 crore girlfriend that someone has. Are there two Narendra Modis out there? Is there this personal attacks, almost Bal Thackeray like comments which are made, and the other Narendra Modi who constantly talks of development?
Well, I mean, I think there is some cheek to people who talk about Modi making personal attacks when he's the man who's been subjected to probably the most virulent form of personal attacks. I think I would rather look at this in what is the appeal of Narendra Modi? On one hand, there is this issue of him as a person who's committed almost single-mindedly to economic development. On top of that, what you might call dictatorial, I think is perceived by a lot of people as being a decisive leader, as a person who's no nonsense, who just gets ahead with the job and does it, and in the process brushes aside the obstacles. Now that may not be that may be against the so-called consensual style which may have emerged, but the question really we have to address in the coming months is, given India's situation today, is this the style we might need in the short term?
Okay, fair enough. Jainarayan Vyas, is Modi a decisive, tough leader, or is he a dictator, authoritarian leader who brooks no dissent?
Well, Rajdeep, I would fully endorse what Sapan was saying.
I'm not surprised.
And like to qualify it, and would like to qualify it. For those who are laughing, I would like to qualify it with some solid figures.
Yes.
Number one.
Yes.
While the country is tottering for less than 3% agricultural growth.
Yes.
Last decadal growth of agriculture in Gujarat is more than 10%, and even Dr. Swaminathan has praised our soil health card and Krishi.
Bihar also growing at double digit.
As far as technology applications are
Bihar also growing at double digit.
I'm talking about decadal growth, Rajdeep. I expect from you at least some fair treatment.
Okay, fair enough. I've given you fair treatment. You're an old friend, Mr. Jainarayan Vyas. Point taken, but is he a dictator or a decisive leader?
I'm proud of it. He is a decisive leader.
Okay.
Because at some stage,
Yes.
you have to take tough decisions.
Yes.
Where in certain areas, maybe
Yes.
your decisions might not be acceptable.
Yes.
But then, as
Okay.
a captain of the team, if the team wins the trophy,
Yes.
you are the captain who received the trophy. But if the team loses,
Yes.
it is not an individual player, but you are criticized as the captain.
Okay, point
So
taken.
he's
Modi is
playing
the
the
captain
captain's
of a
role.
successful team is what you're saying. Ms. Yagnik, let's be clear again. The authoritarian streak that may be spoken about may also be seen by many as Gujaratis want a strong leader. That's coming out through this survey as well, that he is seen to epitomize a certain kind of strong leadership. We may argue as liberals that maybe it's he doesn't give enough space for alternative viewpoints, but people like a strong, decisive leader.
He is neither decisive nor a dictator, I would say,
Yes.
because if
Yes.
you are simply a head of a ruling party,
Yes.
who happen to be there and use all the machinery to your advantage.
Yes.
You market yourself as a Vikas Purush, but you are not, because you cannot take the credit of all this development. So
Yes.
you are neither. You are just trying to project yourself as a certain particular head, and the world has judged him, his own party has judged him,
Yes.
his allies have judged him. So, well, I think we cannot give any particular name. Leaders are those who lead by example, by actions,
Yes.
not by just taking other people's actions and then putting a label on that.
Okay, point taken, but Akar, are there two Modis out there? One, a genuine karma yogi who gets up, he says at 5 in the morning, works till midnight with a vision, or the other, a demagogue who relishes controversies, taking on a Shashi Tharoor one day, the secular intelligentsia, the other Manmohan Singh the third. Are there two Modis out there, and that is the kind of person we have to deal with? Someone who is therefore seen as polarizing. Is he Gujarat ka Sher, or is he a Vikas, or is he a Desh ka Neta?
We have both. We have the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Modi, who is decisive, works very hard, speaks very well. He might make a joke, that's fine. But he has dictatorial tendencies. We should not forget that. He has cornered all the cabinet posts himself. He holds 12 of the biggest ministries. Except for finance, he holds the other 12.
Right. So you...
Mr. Jainaran Vyas gets to run the non-governmental organizations.
Right.
I don't know why he would want to run NGOs if he wanted to join government.
My dear friend.
Okay. Let's not. I'm reaching the end of the program.
Small ministry.
Okay. Manini Chatterjee.
Health and family welfare is not a small ministry.
Okay. Hold on, sir. Hold on. Is he Gujarat ka Sher or Desh ka Neta? There's a style which is clearly working for Gujarat at the moment. But is it a style that can work for the country? You make Bal Thackeray-like comments on a Shashi Tharoor's wife.
I think there's only one Modi. I disagree. I think he's a package. He is he is a no-nonsense man. He gets things done, but he gets things done as Shapon put it in a very euphemistic fashion, that where there are obstacles, he removes them. But in a democracy, there are more gentle and consensual ways of operating. So for people who think Modi is great, and if he wants to be Prime Minister, if you want a no-nonsense leader who is going to be completely sort of dismissive of our democratic, slow, fumbling ways, I think there is a sense that you want a decisive leader. But just be sure that with that decisive leader, your trains may run on time. But there is a lack of democracy within the BJP. I mean, I think the BJP people are, forget the opposition and the rest of us.
Yes.
I mean, I think there will be resistance from within the BJP and the RSS to a person like Modi.
Sachi, particularly in the era of coalition politics.
Yes.
Do you believe Modi is suited for Gujarat, where he can run the state exactly the way he wants? Or can he be a national leader in the era of coalition politics? Will he have to change?
Not only Modi, Jayalalitha, Mamata, all these very strong state leaders, they cannot easily function in Delhi.
They cannot easily function. So Modi still has to make that transition from Gandhinagar to Delhi.
Absolutely.
Swapan, would you concede that Modi has to transform himself?
Every leader is really tested how he or she handles the situation you're faced with. Modi has so far operated within the parameters of Gujarat.
Yes.
If he's going to become something of a national figure, then obviously you have to make necessary adjustments.
Okay.
It's a truism.
Okay. You're saying it's a truism, but whether he can make that adjustment could well be his next challenge.
I think it's a little more complicated.
It's a little bit more complicated
but I think that if Modi thinks, and a lot of people today think that precisely this no-nonsense dictatorial thing is what India needs, and Modi
So
can
what
get
has worked
200 seats.
He thinks what has worked in Gujarat could
Might
work across the country.
And the jury is out on that.
The jury is out on
No,
that.
that's
but
how you would like to posit it.
Okay,
Modi is not going to be a pussycat overnight.
It's fair enough. We must end the Modi debate with two different views. What else would Narendra Modi be but attract different views? But for now, the verdict, at least of our pre-poll survey, is clear. Narendra Modi, it appears, is poised for a hat-trick of wins in Gujarat. Thanks very much for watching. Up ahead, is Modi then truly prime ministerial material? We'll be joined by a special panel again as we continue our focus on our big Gujarat survey. Thanks for watching. Thank you all for joining me. Goodbye.